You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholic, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, like some bottles, and press them guns. It's more than life.
Oh, fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And we are back. Man, I'll admit, we took quite a bit of a break there, 2 weeks, but realistically, has really much happened in those 2 weeks? And I got somewhat of an excuse for missing out and not posting anything for a while. I've been a little sick, so I'm just now getting back to myself, but I missed all you guys out there. I missed all you guys out there, and I something when I go a week or more without posting anything and hopping up on the track here for you guys makes me feel weird. Makes me feel unfulfilled, like I haven't done my needs to the people. So yeah, no, I'm happy to be back here, even though I was sick and taking a break from anything every now and again is good. But soon won't be able to do that at all. We'll be 2, 3 podcasts a week instead of this one every other week or so that we've kind of been on. But we want to get off of that and so let's get into it because like I said, once we get into that, we'll be doing 2 Saints podcasts and sprinkling in a UFC podcast, and I won't know what to do with myself then when it comes to any type of break time. But anyways, there's just a couple things that have happened in the Who Dat Nation with the Saints and stuff like that. But let's hop up on the track right now. Let's get this. So can I get a menu? And so the first thing is, I'm talking about how for too long I won't have any time to take a break or rest or just, I guess, uh, kind of step back from the whole podcast thing because so rookies have already reported for training camp. That was on July 16th. So training camp is just around the corner. We're about to have training camp. We'll have a bunch of news and notes every day coming out from training camp, from who's starting to look kind of good in training camp, who your training camp superstar, guys that look like the best player on the team during training camp, but then when the regular season comes around, they can hardly stick on your practice squad. So the rookies, they're already here. They're already there in Irvine, California, University of California. But the veterans they're just right behind them on July 6th, July 23rd. They'll be there too. So we got training camp coming up, and then really besides that, there hasn't been a whole lot of news. But I want to get into this. This is something that happened about a week ago. So you say I'm a little late to the party here, but still, I want to drop some of my comments, my feelings from this, and that's the St. Brown podcast. So we had Amara St. Brown, who is a great wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. I honestly didn't realize he had as good a season as he did last year. I guess I remember seeing like his numbers from the 2022 season where he just had like 1,100 yards and like 100 catches. He was an All Pro last year. Had like 119 catches, 1,500 yards, and 10 touchdowns, and just in 16 games too, which also is impressive. So, okay, we see how great Amon-Ra St. Brown is, and he is the younger brother, I do believe, and he was a second. He was a fourth round pick. For some reason, I even thought he was a second round pick. Shows you my knowledge about the St. Brown brothers isn't great. So then we're talking about Equanimous because it's the St. Brown podcast. So from what I took from it, it's just basically them arguing and mumbling to each other. So it wasn't that exciting of a podcast to begin with. So we got the older brother, Equanimous St. Brown, who is just a sixth round pick, and you're lucky to get 40. You're lucky to get 40 catches and 40 catches and maybe 400 yards and a touchdown or two out of him. He ain't on the same level. We ain't the same. We ain't one and the same. Him and his brother. But so Equanimous St. Brown, he was signed in the offseason to a veteran minimum. Uh, he's probably just a camp body, training camp body. His brother being good in the league, and him being, I guess, what the NFC North and in that faction. I think his nepotism may have just ran out because his brother being as good as him isn't going to keep the older brother in the league. But anyway, so Equanimous, he's found his way onto the Saints roster for now. And these statements that we got from his brother Almiron may lead to why he ain't gonna be on the team because we don't need any negativity coming from catching Saints catching strays from any direction. I'm good on that. So let me get to why we're even talking about these two clowns. Honestly, watch Almiron's not really. He's a great wide receiver. Love to have him on the Saints. But anyway, so they're on their podcast, the St. Brown podcast, and they're kind of just talking. Almiron's kind of talking about how great the Detroit Lions were last year and how they've even gotten even better than than they were last year, and how they were just one step away, a blown lead away from making the Super Bowl over the 49ers. And then you kind of get Equanimous. He kind of chimes in a little bit saying, like, teams aren't year to year. They're just because you were good last year doesn't mean you're going to be good this year. You could kind of take a step back from what you were last year. And then you got Almiron St. Brown just didn't like that at all, because then he starts naming off reasons why they've gotten better, who they've added to make them better in the season. And then they just kind of mumbling, arguing back and forth. And you get this from Almiron St. Brown, where he says, nobody in the Saints locker room believes they have a chance at winning Super Bowl or anything. Like, boom! Like, hey, come on. That was a little uncalled for now. And that's something you really before these podcasts and things like this, I mean, that would have been something that Amon-Ra St. Brown would have never said to like the media, like the Detroit Lions media, if they asked him, like, what do you think about the new team your brother's on? He wouldn't have said that like that. That's bulletin. Like, I'm not sure if the Saints play the Detroit Lions this year or not. I know they played them last year, but maybe they'll play them in the playoffs if they get it there like that. But yeah, that's bulletin board material. Like, come on. So you just wouldn't say that, and you might have cost your brother a job as well. Because I don't need to hear that kind of stuff. Your brother may never get another job in the NFL now because you said that. But I will respect. I do respect that Equanimous kind of tried to defend the Saints and saying like, oh, who do you know in the locker room and all that. But so that's kind of just the breakdown between them. But my opinion on this is like, what is Amon-Ra St. Brown like even talking about the Saints? Like, you play for the Detroit Lions. I know you guys were good last year and you made the, I don't know, like the first NFC championship, maybe the team's history. I know they haven't done anything in like 50 years. They won their first playoff game ever, like in the early 90s or something like that. And then like since they haven't really done anything, made the playoffs and got bounced in the first round a couple times by with Matthew Stafford as their quarterback. but like they haven't done anything. I'm not saying the Saints have a huge tradition or and are prestigious franchise. Definitely they aren't anymore. They kind of were there the last like 5, 6, 8 years of Drew Brees. They were kind of perennial playoff team. The last 3 or 4 years they were like Super Bowl or bust. Like when is the last time the Detroit Lions have been in that scenario? I mean, it shows me they don't know how to win. They haven't learned how to win with the way their mouths are talking. So that's kind of the one thing I take away from that. But I'm not gonna take trash talk from Lions fans or Lions players that bad mouthing the Saints when the Detroit Lions over the past 50 years haven't even been on the Saints level, and like I was saying, the Saints haven't been like amazing over those 50 years. They have about 20 where they were good, and then they were pretty bad to just average over the other 30. But hell, the Detroit Lions hadn't even had that. You could count on one hand over the 50 years where they were like decent. So I don't want to hear nothing about Detroit Lions players talking trash about the Saints or fans talking trash about the Saints. Like they act like you've been there. They just can't seem to act right. And so that's what we got with that. And it's just the what he said, basically saying like no one in the locker room believes that they have a chance at winning, and there's fans, there's Saints fans, there's Hoodats that believe the same thing, they're already throwing in the towel before the season has started. And you get a lot of pessimistic uh topics, angles from me, where I think, oh, I don't think Saints are so good here. I don't think they're so good here, but I don't build myself up entirely for the start of the season to feel like, oh, the Saints, they've already been eliminated from the playoffs. Like that's not fun. By the time the season rolls around and week one is here, I think I'll have talked myself in to them possibly winning 10 games. I like that's kind of the mark, you know. They've won 9 games here or there, but I think they to get in the playoffs, they need to roll a 10 there. So I'm just not giving up on the season before it even started. And also, how could Amara St. Brown know the feeling of any players in the Saints locker room other than maybe what Equinemius has been saying? But he hasn't been telling you about any of those 90 players that are there for any like cut downs and coaches as well. So that I that's my feelings about that. Amara St. Brown, you're a great player. Your brother's kind of a bum, and he's with the Saints right now. But please, just keep the Saints name out your mouth, please, because it makes you look like you hadn't been there. It makes you feel like you don't know how to win, basically. So can we do that at least? All right, so that's really the most excitement that we've had within like the last week or so. Besides that, training camp is just around the corner. We're having uh, show updates uh, for the rookies and the veterans. So, but let's see what else do we have. So the Saints players, some of their undrafted free agents that they had ended up getting. I guess there was a UFL draft just a couple of days ago, and some Saints players got drafted, which that's something I've kind of noticed. Quite a few Saints undrafted free agents or like 7th, 6th round picks. A lot of times you see them uh, in the they ending up in the UFL if they can't stay on a Saints uh, practice squad. But we got some names that are kind of a little bit familiar, and I guess this is something just because they get drafted by the UFL team doesn't give their rights away from the Saints who already had them. And I imagine these players they'd rather be on a professional team than the money they make at veteran minimum rookie minimum is probably most than like your highest paid player in the UFL. But let me just go through these real quick. And so I was a little confused. Took me a second to understand like the rounds and stuff because I'm seeing like eighth round, 10th round, and I'm thinking like MLB or something. But that's because they have as many players and in as many rounds would have as many rounds, I guess, even though the talent level isn't as good. But there's only 8 teams, so I understand why they get up into like the 10th round, and we start here at like the fifth. So, but a fifth round pick wouldn't be like an NFL fifth round pick. It would be more like a NFL third round pick or something, second or third, because there's only four teams. So there's only or only 8 teams, so there's only 8 picks per round. But let's go into these. So there were 5 of them, and like I said, they were all players that were undrafted free agents at the end of the 2024 draft. So we have a tight end, Dallin Holker, who that was a player that the Saints gave. I think he may have been the highest paid undrafted free agent, uh, rookie free agent this offseason after the draft. I think they paid him like $250,000, like 250,000 or something, to sign with the Saints as an undrafted rookie. So actually, I'm kind of a little surprised he wasn't a higher pick, seeing how he was so coveted by the Saints. I would have thought maybe one of these UFL teams would have been more coveted of him, but I'm not sure how the top of these drafts work out if teams are looking for like quarterbacks and wide receivers and defensive playmakers in the first round. But the Saints, they obviously felt good about Dylan Holker and the Birmingham Stallions, who won the championship like the last 3 years in a row. The last 3 years, uh, they won it in the USFL 2 years in a row, and then they won it in the UFL last year. And I've kind of jumped on the bandwagon, I admit, seeing how they've only lost like 2 games in the last 3 years. But also a reason is some coaches from the from the Breakers, some coaches from the Breakers, the New Orleans Breakers from the USFL, went to the Birmingham Stallions with the transition to the UFL, and some of their players went there too. So it was just kind of an easy transition, and they're winning. They're winning. They're pretty much unbeatable. So that's so for them to get a player like Dalen Holker, who the Saints obviously think might be good. If he doesn't make it on the Saints and he's there, he could be a big time weapon for them, coming from Colorado, I do believe. And then we have next player would have been D lineman Trajan Jeffcoat and he got drafted by Birmingham as well in a 6th round pick. I tell you, I really don't know a whole lot about these players. These are just undrafted free agents. But so other than the Dylan Holker one, I don't really see any of these other 4 making the team. And then the third one as O lineman, Sincere Hainsworth. Doubt that he's related to Albert Hainsworth, but still catchy name there. And he was a 7th round pick of San Antonio. And then the 4th pick was Mason Tipton, and he was picked by Memphis in the 10th round. And then the last one was just a safety, Isaiah Stahlberg, and he was a 10th round pick from Michigan. Memphis for Tipton and Michigan for Stahlberg. So those are just some players that the UFL teams are kind of interested in if they end up not making the Saints roster. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I like the fact that Dallin Holker was the highest pick of the ones, so that kind of makes it look as if the Saints weren't ignorant or naive and giving him as much money as they do. So because even other teams of other businesses, other organizations, franchises or programs, I don't know, UFL, different class of UFL teams are interested. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. I mean, there's not a lot going on here yet, but it's just about to start with training camp. So I'm here for that, and yeah, I guess we'll see what these because that'll be something we'll be paying attention early on in training camp with rookies and stuff. You get a lot of play from these camp bodies that I just went over. So be interesting to see which kind of keep track of those five and see which ones do anything. And the Saints with the injury to Juwan Johnson, and then we got Foster Monroe and Jimmy Graham still out there. It'd be nice if Dylan Holker has no chance at all of making Birmingham because he's looking like he's uh, playing for some snaps and starting time. But that's all I have for you. Training camp coming up, and I'm sure we'll have more than enough news and notes for you then. But anyways, I think that's all I have for you. So who dat? And can I get a check, please?